Today I'm honored to introduce one of our own. Bill Lervaag is the current chairman of Heart of Illinois Harvest. He will be discussing how it originated and how it has served the Peoria community in preserving food from going into landfills and feeding millions of residents over the last 30 years. I was proud to be at the first meetings here at our club when they first started it, and my company has contributed ever since then. Bill joined Rotary North in December of 1978. This will be his 45th year as a Rotarian. Bill came to Peoria from Rapid City, South Dakota in 1962, selling doctors their medical equipment and supplies for their offices. He opened up a new territory for his company, Allo Medical Division of Brunswick Corporation. After 6 years with the company, they took the sales people off commission and put them on salaries. Bill jumped into the insurance and investment business in 1968. He later formed his own financial planning company for 17 years with two partners called Master Plan Financial. He sold his partnership and retired in December of 2019. Bill is married to his wife, Barbara, of 51 years. He has 3 children, and they have given him 7 grandchildren, the oldest being 13 years old. Please welcome Bill Lervaag.
I'm very pleased to be here. I mentioned to them I've been a member for 45 years, and I've never won. And I prayed about it, and Lord came back and said, buy a ticket. Anyway, Jim has asked me to speak because we have a lot of new members that aren't familiar with Heart of Illinois Harvest. And the fact is that Harvest was organized by 3 Rotarians from Peoria-North. Myself, Bob Bietto, and who was the other one? Hope Albright. Yeah. He was the main one too. I couldn't remember his name. Anyway, how many of you are familiar with Heart of Illinois Harvest? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you were aware that it was formed by the Rotarians, Peoria-North? Okay. How many of you are aware of the fact that when we started in 1992, none of the grocery stores, none of the food wholesalers, nobody was giving food because they were afraid of the liability. And we were uncovered through a law office here that there was a Good Samaritan Food Act passed in Illinois in 1981. And I went out to Kroger's North Point. Greg Howerton was there as the manager, and he supplied that article to Kroger's, and Kroger's opened up their doors to us. I recently read a book that was given out at church called, this is just before Christmas, called Holy Moments. And I had a holy moment through Hope Albright. Hope came into my office at the time. We were both with Lincoln Financial's advisors, and he was all excited. He had watched the program on national television in December of '92, the Crystal Cathedral, the Glass Cathedral out in California. Schuler was the minister, and he had invited a guest from Louisville, Kentucky, who had started a harvest organization there, and Hope got all excited about it, and he called me, Bob Bietto, and we met at Norma Weaver over at the Salvation Army about starting Harvest. However, we didn't know what to do or how to do it. So we came up with the idea to invite this gentleman to come to Peoria and meet us at the Salvation Army. And come to find out, the reason he came, he had been the tennis coach at River City earlier before moving to Louisville and becoming an accessible stockbroker. He said, in order to start harvest, first of all, you need to be chartered, which we did. He said, you need to get everything free because you can't afford anything. And so the first thing that we did, we needed an office. Had no office. So I came to Rotary North and I mentioned we needed an office. Ted Kern came forward, he's sitting right back there, and he offered the basement of the art store across from Metro Center. And they had a kitchen down there, room for an office for our coordinator who lined up volunteers and kept things moving smoothly. And then Ted tells me today that he would go out on Sundays himself and pick up Thompson food basket and deliver it to places down in the South End. I guess Ted grew up in the South End. But anyway, Ted, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Then we needed a truck. No truck. So I think Bob came up with the idea of going over to UPS, and we went over there to see if they had an old truck that we could use, and they didn't. But they made us aware of a grant program. And through the grant, we got a $25,000 check from them, and we went out and bought our own truck. And the truck was a 2-passenger cab with a pass-through to the 6-foot box on the truck. And for years, we had a guy riding back there on a chair in all kinds of weather, no seatbelt. We got stopped by the police a couple times. When they found out what we were doing, they let us get away with it. Then we needed tire repair, and Bob Biato had a lot of ex-students that he could call out, put pressure on, and he went down to Rocket Tire, and they gave us all our free tires and our lubrications and so on and so forth. Then we got a free answering service and the like. After 5 or 6 years at Ted's place, Ted wanted to move downtown, and our coordinator didn't want to be that far from the central part of Peoria, so we needed another office. So again, I came to Rotary North and asked, we needed office space. We have a gentleman that was here, he's no longer here, Lou Coe, who had I believe it was Continental Forms, and we were there for 25 years, and Lou was gracious enough to let us use their conference room and everything else. After 25 years, they sold the building on us. And so 2 years ago, I came back to Rotary again, and I said, we need a new office. Mike O'Brien came forward, and he went down to Trader's Remax office at the corner of War Memorial in Knoxville, and Jeff Colba's was agreement to let us have an office, and so we used their equipment. And Bob was telling me our coordinator didn't have her name on the door, so he went in and talked to Ted, and they put her name on the door, a nice little plaque. In the early days, Bob Biato and I and Hope Albright were out calling on the Kroger's and all the other stores, convincing them that they were free of liability. We had the law made up and issued by a local law firm, and Greg Howerton was the first to send it to Kroger's, and that opened up the door. But before this, everything was going to landfill. They were throwing it all away. We opened up the door. As I said, Heart of Illinois Harvest started its operation in 1992, and we've been picking up and delivering 6 to 7 tons of food every week, 6 days a week. Pick the food up and take it to the pantries, the missions. And basically, we've got 40 volunteers doing this on a daily basis. They don't work every week, they vary it. And we deliver it to 70 feeding places in the city of Peoria on a daily basis. We currently pick up food from Hy-Vee, Kroger's, Schnucks, Caterpillar. In fact, they had a truckload of Gatorade we picked up yesterday over at Morton plant. We picked up from food wholesalers. WA Foods was very, very instrumental in giving us a lot of food. Joe Wah was, until his death, was on our board. Hope was convinced that we needed somebody feeding food on Saturdays. And he was a member of the Mossville Methodist Church, and so he had a connection with the Methodist Church downtown. So he approached Patty Bash in, I think it was 96, to start feeding people. Patty, as you know, who know her, wonderful person, she put a group together and they started feeding people out of the basement of the church. First week, there was about 25 people there. And after about the first year, Bob, they were feeding 125, 200 people.
Up to 400.
400, okay. And Bob took part as a volunteer down there, shaking people's hands as they came in and greeting them kindly with a smile. And
we had a wonderful gentleman who used to ride on the truck and stop off there, and his name was Doc Albert.
oh yes, I was going to mention that. And he really enjoyed that 2 years that he was on the truck. And we had some kids that had to serve time, do something in the community, and they were really enchanted with him, and they went on to work with us, but after he left. But he was a joy.
He balanced on the back of the truck.
He what?
He would balance.
He would balance?
He was an older gentleman.
Okay.
I just couldn't stop him.
He loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you take over. I got it.
Sorry.
In 2018, that we had 2 trucks up to that point, and the truck was on its last legs. And we just could not continue to have somebody sitting in that back box in all kinds of weather, cold, hot. And so we started raising money for a new truck. And what we wanted was the truck that I got sitting outside the door there, a 6-passenger cab truck, so nobody'd have to ride in the back, with the door on the side to open. And we were raising money, but we couldn't quite get over the hump. And at the time, there was an investment news magazine that I read on a regular basis. And they had a charity called Invest in Others. And they were coming up with an award called the Lifetime Achievement Award for 3 representatives in the U.S. And my 2 partners put my name in for it. And I was selected. And I had to go to Washington, or not to Washington, on a Thursday, fly to Boston and go home on a Friday to get the award. The first prize was $50,000, and the second prize was 10. I ended up with 10. The guy that won it was a gentleman from Boston that started a camp for kids without fathers. And he had that running for about 10 years, and a well-deserved award for him. So anyway, I got $10,000, and I was getting ready to leave the gala. And this gentleman came up to me and he said, he introduced himself, and I had never met him, but he was the chairman of my broker dealership, Commonwealth. He didn't want his name on the truck. But he said, when you get back to Peoria, he said, how much money do you need to cover that truck? I said, well, I don't know. I'll have to wait until I get back. He said, well, call my secretary. Tell her how much, and I'll overnight a check to you. And what we needed was about $22,000, and I got it in 2 days. And the things that have happened, I can only lay it on the Holy Spirit, because we've been flying by the seat of our pants for many, many years. We had a wonderful thing that happened, interesting story, about a year ago this last Easter in 2022, that week of Easter. Tina, our coordinator, got a call that one of the stores had some frozen pre-cooked turkeys. She said, how many can we take? She said, take them all. She didn't know how many. When they got there, it was 8,000 pounds of turkeys, 12 to 14 pounds. And so there's a lot of teary-eyed volunteers picking them up, and a lot of tears at the pantries that they were delivering them to. And then when they handed them out prior to Easter to these people that were in need, there was a lot of tears there too. And that's why these guys are here. Mr. Ellison here is all dressed up. He doesn't look like the rest of them. He's been on the truck for 25 years. Unbelievable. To give you a list kind of quickly of who we delivered to. We delivered to Sterling Towers, Esther House, Salvation Army, Learning Connections, Teen Challenge in Pekin, WHIP, which is Washington Helps Its People, Family House, Peoria Rescue Mission, Center for Prevention of Abuse, St. Augustine Manor on Spring Street, Westmark, which is near on Moss Avenue, Proctor Center, Street Family. That's a nonprofit group that helps homeless near Mount Calvary Church, I believe. General Downing's Veterans Home, Manna, it's a food pantry in the South Peoria. Pilgrim's Progress, Mount Zion, St. Thomas Church, Pantry, Sophie's Kitchen, Ronald McDonald House, Neighborhood House, East Bluff Community Center, New Beginnings, which is a church pantry, First United Methodist Church, Loaves and Fish Program, and East Bluff Housing. The main thing that I think that Jim wanted me up here for was to remind you of Harvest and basically what our volunteers do, and to make you aware of the fact that these volunteers, some of them, especially during the winter months, like to go to Florida. And so if you know of anyone that would like to volunteer for Harvest, especially in the wintertime, and they won't have to ride in the back of the bus, that we could use volunteers. And I put some brochures on the tables that we put together, and on the back page gives you some donation ideas. A lot of people that are with Caterpillar can get matching foundation. And there's those of us that have to pull money out of our 401ks and our IRAs aren't aware, a lot of them, that they can do QCDs, which means they can pull money out of their IRAs and on a non-taxable basis and give it to charity. So with the short amount of time I got left here, I was wondering if you would mind if I had a couple of our volunteers tell what it's made, how it made a difference in their lives. Jonathan, would you like to say something? Need a mic.
If you come up.
We got some mics. Here, we got a mic. Or you can come up here.
Like Bill said, I'm on my 25th year, 23rd year, something. I've lost track after 20 years, but our coordinator calls me the grandpa of the group because I've been on as a volunteer probably longer than about anyone else, but younger than most of them. But I've really enjoyed it in all these years. I used to start out doing it on Tuesday nights. We picked up at Panera's when they first opened in Westlake, and a friend of mine got me involved. He was wanting somebody to ride along with him. So we used his truck and went out, and sometimes we had to make 2 trips to Panera's because they had so much extra product. We took it down to the Southside Mission, the women's shelter down there on Laramie. And then I got on as a kind of fill in on the truck. And during COVID, early days of COVID, some of us were doing the truck or the van 3 to 4 days a week, and we just kept getting phone calls all the time. And oh, I need you. Sometimes it was that morning when somebody had to call off on a really cold day or something came up, and so, all right, I'll be right over there. So I'm only a couple blocks from where we keep the truck. So, but spent a lot of hours doing it, met a lot of great people, a lot of great volunteers. The recipients are all wonderful and appreciative of what we do. And sometimes they see some foods that I haven't even seen, from the stores, and some of them have never even heard of some of these foods we take, especially some of the produce, and then we get some odd seafood things and kind of gourmet items. So it's been a lot of fun all these years, and working with a lot of great people. Thank you.
Randy was on the truck today, Thursday.
I retired on December 31st, 2015. A friend of mine was working on the truck, and he said it's winter. Some people have gone to Florida, for a few months, so we need somebody to fill in. So I filled in on a certain day for several months till they got back. Then when they got back, of course, they bumped me out of that spot, and I was a standby. So you go out, you might work a couple times a week, once a week, maybe some week you might not be called at all, but it's just a fill-in basis. And then as people retired from the program or left, then I got put on a permanent spot. It was a real challenge when the pandemic hit, because the first thing that happened, everybody rushed into the grocery stores and cleaned out all the food, and we'd go by the stores and there's nothing there to donate. And then after a few weeks, they got caught up with the groceries, but a lot of the pantries started closing down. So we'd pick up food and have nowhere to take it. So, and then we had volunteers. A lot of the volunteers are older people, and they were afraid of the pandemic. So we had a lot of people quit working. So it was a real challenge to keep the thing moving. Like Tina did a real good job of calling people and getting them to fill in. I mean, there were weeks I'd work 4 days a week, just to keep things going. And then as the pandemic eased, people started coming back, and so now I'm just back down to 1 day a week, or fill in if they need, fill in on a spot. But it's nice to go into the grocery stores and see some of the people that work in the back, that they're happy to see you and they're happy to donate food, and they know it's going to a good cause. So that's the rewarding part.
Thanks, Randy.